Okay, so it's been about a month since I've done a review, and for that, I do apologize. I hope the other material I've been uploading has at least garnered a few minutes of your time. So to make it up to you all, my hopefully semi-loyal viewers, I'm reviewing Legendary, a game that I picked up a few months back at a gaming store outside of Philly named Retro Game Junkie. I've been there a few times now, and I always find a good selection of both games I want and games I never even heard of. This is a game I've never heard of. Booting it up on ye old PS3, I immediately ran into a few problems. The opening slideshow, and I mean slideshow, as the intro scene is just pictures, isn't exactly smooth. Not really a good sign, but not game-breaking. Yet. I then tried to start a game, and failed. Seriously, I cannot get a single-player game started. Well, I suppose I can, but it flat out states that the game would not save due to me requiring a profile to save. Yet I cannot figure out how to create this profile. I mean, I'm logged into my PS3, isn't that enough? Nope, it's not. Instead, the game wants you to create a game profile, but there's nothing here to indicate how to do so. What the deuce? To Google, I went, and there wasn't much on this issue. But one thread on, I think it was Reddit or GameFAQs, surmised that it may have been due to the online component being handled by GameSpy, and since that company went defunct years back, the game doesn't allow for profile creations anymore. So you mean to tell me that instead of linking game saves to a profile that you create locally on the PS3's hard drive, it instead links your offline campaign to an online profile that the developers, Gamecock, and no, I'm not kidding on that, had to have known would not last forever, thereby making the single-player offline game a single-sitting affair. This has got to be one of the absolute stupidest things I've ever seen in a video game. Even better, when you click the View PDA link, you get a generic message. At least during this whole process, there's a pretty good track playing on the main menu. So there's that. But all of this crap cannot be a good omen to Legendary's quality. I was just going to pass on the game and tack it up to meh, but I really want to play it. So to Steam I went, and using $6 of my Steam credit, I bought the game. This version has to be at least playable, right? Thankfully, it is. Even though I also had issues when launching for the first time due to NVIDIA physics install error. It told me it was aborting the installation, yet I still had to click cancel to move it along. Doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me, but I didn't give up. Yet. And finally, after what feels like an hour of tinkering around, I got Legendary to work past the menu screen. Finally, I can tell you what the game's all about. You play as a thief named Deckard, who is hired by a rich guy to steal the fabled Pandora's box, which for some reason was hidden in a basement located under some business in New York City, of all places. Deckard inserts a key into the box and sticks his palm up to the device, which probably wasn't a good idea. He now has the ability to consume magical power known as the Animus. And no, this isn't in reference to Assassin's Creed or anything. You later find out that the guy who hired you, LaFay, expected you to die once you unleashed the power of the box, and now he wants to use it to control the world. That's because the Greek legend is apparently incorrect. For those that aren't as familiar with the Greek myth, let me explain it. Mostly because I love Greek mythology, although I will admit that I looked it up online as I'm a bit rusty on many of the tales. The box itself, often also called a jar, was given from the Greek god Zeus to Pandora once Prometheus stole fire from the heavens. The instructions to never open the gift were given to Pandora, but she could not resist and took a little peek inside. But this unleashed all sort of nasties into the world. Plagues, death, general bad stuff. Pandora was able to close the artifacts before everything left, leaving one simple thing: hope. Anyway, back to the game. According to the game's lore, the box was never actually opened, and instead of being a prison for bad stuff, instead, it was a weapon of sorts, because of course it is. Not only this, but unlocking this container freed a bunch of creatures into the world. The first legendary beast you run into is a griffin, a creature that is half bird, half lion. No, I wouldn't want to run into any of those either. Being that he was double-crossed, Deckard now seeks revenge with his handler, who is a sort of double agent. And now you have 6 stages to run through, slaying humans and beasts alike to get that revenge. To be honest, I really wasn't expecting this game to be a first-person shooter. The stickers on the front of the case were covering the gun, and the pictures were kind of tiny on the back, so I was expecting either a fantasy RPG or a third-person action game. But nope, first-person shooter. That's cool though. I enjoy shooters. It's just a shame that Legendary isn't a very good one. It's not terrible, mind you, but it's not great either. It's one of those games where it feels like it's just going through the motions, giving you generic guns and bland areas as you just brainlessly fight demons to get from point A to point B to complete an everyday objective like meet up with Bravo team or reach the cathedral or kill a freaking Kraken. It's a shame that I have to say this too, as I feel the game has some awesome potential to be something amazing with all of the Greek enemies. Oh, wait. Not all of the enemies are Greek, which is kind of odd considering that the game is based on, I don't know, Greek mythology. In fact, only a small minority of the enemies are Greek in nature. You have the aforementioned griffins. You fight a few minotaurs, which should be shot from the back, as the skin is apparently weaker there. Finally, there is the echidna, who keeps harassing you with her tentacles. But that's like 2.5, as the one's kind of like a boss that you never actually fight. The first real enemy you fight are fire drakes. Usually when I hear the word drake, I think of a dragon, not a bulldog-looking creature that rolls around and spits fireballs at you. Werewolves? Those aren't Greek either. Nari? Apparently these things are Slavic in nature. There are Japanese blood spiders, and again, a frickin' kraken, which from what I've researched, originated in Norwegian stories. This confuses me. There are plenty of Greek creatures that could have been included as part of the bestiary in Legendary. How about a Cerberus? Chimeras? I can never could pronounce that word, but you know what I mean there. Gorgons? Cyclopses? The Stymphalian birds, which are the birds that shoot their feathers as missiles since they are made of freaking bronze? Centaurs? Hydra would have been a pretty badass boss. There are just so many freaking options. And yet we decide to branch out into different areas of the world and fight freaking spiders. I can understand wanting to incorporate various other creatures of myth, but since the game revolves around the Pandora's box, I feel more emphasis should have been put on the Greek world. Anyway, back to the Kraken. It was one of the more frustrating bosses that I encountered. You have to drop one of your weapons to pick up a rocket launcher, blow off its tentacles, and target the Kraken's mouth. But if you aren't careful, those tentacles will kill you in one strike, no matter your health level. It took me quite a few attempts before I realized I was standing in the wrong spot. You can shoot a tentacle to open up a wider area, which is the preferred section to fight in. I wish there was more of an indicator to head over here instead of just head to the helipad. You head towards the helipad, a chopper takes off and then is taken down right away, dropping a missile box. That's why I figured I had to be here. You know, maybe I should talk about the combat a bit more. The gunplay is very average, but you do have a health meter that you need to be aware of. There are no health packs to be found, but you do have the animus abilities. By slaying creatures, you'll find that they leave behind this animus energy. You can absorb it by holding F. The orb to the left of your health meter shows how much animus energy you have stored. If you press F while damaged and not near straight energy, you'll consume animus in order to heal yourself. If your stash is full and you are hurt and near energy, you'll simply heal immediately. I will say that it is nice that you can absorb multiple energy orbs at once, so if you are really hurting, finding a group of slain creatures can get you back into prime fighting shape in seconds. The biggest issue with the combat is what I often consider to be one of the cardinal sins of FPS games: a lack of bullet impact. Right from the start, when you are fighting these fire drakes, you'll notice that rounds seem to be bouncing directly off of the creatures. It made me wonder if they were even actually taking damage. Later enemies have the same issues. Sure, you'll see feathers when you blast griffins, or werewolves will bleed. But take the human enemies, things that should definitely be feeling pain when you shoot them. Nah, they just keep moving as if nothing was bothering them. The combat also tends to be a bit slow too. There are several times where you're just walking around between areas with only a small amount of creatures to blast. Because of this, the game just feels boring a lot of the times. Checkpoints don't assist in this poor pacing. Many times, checkpoints before critical areas force you to replay any kind of conversations that you have with NPCs, with no way to skip them. This gets annoying when you reach those rare tough areas that may require a few restarts due to you not used to any sort of real challenge. I should also mention that there is the ability to aim down your sights. However, it's not worth it. Most of the weapons remain accurate enough with your standard hipfire, and by sighting in, they often recoil uncontrollably. Only one weapon has a long distance sight that I did use infrequently, but even this was kinda hard to use. ADSing also feels really stiff to move, so that doesn't help matters any. In addition, the crosshair turns red whenever you target a foe. This is a nice touch, but it remains red even when the foe is long dead and you are targeting the corpse. This can result in some wasted ammo as, let's face it, the corpses have some, shall we say, interesting animations. They aren't much better when they are alive either. They also frequently glitch in between walls when you shoot them. Another cardinal sin Legendary commits is having jumping puzzles. I hate platforming in first-person shooters. Alright. Hate is a strong word. Let's use despise instead. Yeah, that's more like it. But in Legendary, things can be worse than normal. Yes, you have a jump, but you get absolutely no height on it. It's a struggle just to clamber up on small platforms, like luggage or a wooden board. But if you add in the sprint, you'll do a steroid-fueled bunny hop, gaining a huge amount of distance. This is a perfect way to avoid enemy attacks from griffins and minotaurs, so I'll give the game that. But there's this puzzle here where you have to navigate moving storage containers to get to the top of the room. I've missed the platform so many times here that I almost quit. I didn't even care that werewolves kept spawning in here, as they're easy enough to take down. But that jumping from container to container gets annoying very, very quickly. Now here's the thing. I feel Legendary could have had something going for it. The storyline is interesting enough, with the whole Pandora's box unleashing creatures on the world bit being something that could be fun to explore in sequels. The graphics are actually pretty good, with great smoke and water effects, well, at least for the time. Sure, the world is kinda bland with constant destruction being your average view, but it's a lot of shooters anymore. And although it annoys me with the worldwide creatures instead of the Greek ones, it's still fun to see what kind of creature I was going to run into next. But I will admit that I did not complete the game. Why is that? It's a bit glitchy. Again, corpses get stuck in the walls, but that's not a huge deal. There was this battle in a square where a werewolf showed off some awesome gravity-defying moves. But then we come across one of the final areas of the game. And this happens.
Security cameras are disabled. I'm on my way up. Get to the power control booth and wait for me there.
It occurred every time I stepped into this elevator. I tried to reload the checkpoint. I tried a game restart. I tried verifying the Steam game cache. I tried a full-on reinstall. I did not try a new game because F that. I'm not that dedicated to this game. So I'll just sit here and enjoy the view of the underside of the map. So yeah, I literally could not complete this game due to a game-breaking bug. To recap, Legendary could have been legendary with its mythology-based premise, but it falls flat quickly. The combat is average at best, the game is glitchy, the creatures are interesting, but there's not a huge variety. I just did not have fun playing this game. I ended up playing it just to see how the game ended, and I couldn't even do that. It irritates me that I had to buy it twice to play it, and it really wasn't worth it. It's a shame though, as the premise shows actual promise. But as it stands, I cannot recommend Legendary to anyone. Final score, 3 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.